the NSE seeing some selling pressure on Friday and being attributed for the most part to profit-taking. What's your view on the market activity we're seeing?
Yes, Alishia, good morning. Yeah, it's not surprising, you know, like the investors are still trading cautiously. You have to look at what was really moving this market at this time, why the rally was so rapid at the beginning of the year. It has to do with the news on the 31st of December. The Assar Management Company have started buying off or have bought up all the bad loans and have cleared the books of the banker. So the market responded to that news, and that is why we start seeing the oil share index going, the oil share index going high, and the equity were gaining maximum almost for the 3 days before they started falling. But be as it may be at the moment, I still believe that the stock market is still a little bit still vibrant, as it is still a lot of opportunities to take. And then, you know, going forward, we are getting more clearer picture on what AMCOM is about to do to the market. As those pictures are being on view, as investors are getting to know more of what AMCOM is going to do, I think the market will continue to respond to it. And knowing fully well that the year ends of these banks have actually end in December 31st, and from February, March, and April, we start getting results that are released by these banks. So going forward, the market looks very attractive.
Well, we certainly are seeing just how selective investors are being, evidence of that being shown on Friday, where if we're looking at the banking sector, yes, a lot of those stocks are declining, but AfriBank, First City Monument Bank, Intercontinental, Sky and Spring Bank all managing to close higher. How are you playing the banking space right now?
Yeah, the banking stage is always going to be the mover of the market this year, going by going by statistic and report that we are getting. You know, the stronger the banking sector, the stronger the economy, and the stronger the market going forward. And when you look at the news from AMCOM and what AMCOM is planning to do, AMCOM is going to be one of the major mover of the market this year. Then the CBN also is going to play its own part. The Security and Exchange Commission, the Nigerian Stock Exchange. You should not forget that even when the AMCOM news was coming that they are taking over some of these bad loans, the Stock Exchange also came up that they won't have a new CEO for the Stock Exchange before the end of the first quarter. All these are good news. So if all these things are well managed and put in place, we expect the market to be buoyant. And when you look at the banking sector, when you look at that for the past 18 months, the banking sector has been one of the most battered sectors in the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And with the current move that all these provisions that have been made for are now being released back into the book, you expect that the banking sector is going to be the mover. So when you look at those banks, you see whichever bank you try to go into at the moment, I think they are very good buy. But when you look at the strong, fundamental, healthy banks, then you can be thinking of getting good returns on your investments.
Well, that's the banking sector. Let's take a look at some news that's come out this morning that could well affect the manufacturing sector in a big way. We've had an announcement that a reduced electricity tariff would be announced by the Nigerian Electricity Regulation Commission in April, and expected to reduce the cost of electricity by 65%. So where operating costs for any company are in focus right now, Muktar, this particularly good news, one would assume, for manufacturers in Nigeria.
Good news if we see the lights coming, because we've had things like this power sector reform is still ongoing. Throughout December, most of all these companies were running on power plant. So if really that the lights are available even up to 16 to 10 hours, then we could say that this will help not only the manufacturing sector, every sector of the Nigerian economy. But we look to see what this reform is going to do. We look to see whether we still have more of power this year, especially. And so if that is possible, then you could see a good returns in most of these companies. But I am not still very optimistic with that, because even now that the electricity tariff is a little bit high, the power sector is very, very inconsistent and very fluctuating.
So with that being a very big cloud that's hanging over that space right now, within the fast-moving consumer goods sector, I mean, how are you positioning yourself?
Yeah, Alishia, you see, when it comes to Nigeria, policies comes, policy goes. And when such news comes, they actually are supposed to help the market. But you shouldn't forget that most of all these consumer sector, the manufacturing company, have actually independently provided their own power through power plant, and some of them are actually building their own independent power plant to power up their own companies. So they may not be too much different, but when you're looking at that sector, you realize that this year the economy is going to be buoyant. There's going to be a lot of spending in infrastructure. There's going to be a lot of spending. I mean, when people are working, when people are being paid, then the consumable goods will make more returns.
Let's take a look at the oil and gas space while we're doing this overview of sectors in Nigeria. At least 18 consortia are jostling for bids in Nigeria's oil rights, from rights being sold by Royal Dutch Shell in particular. Run us through developments as they're unfolding there.
Alishia, it would have been a very good news if the Royal Dutch Shell is listed on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. As you're aware, there's only one company that is actually listed in all the sector in the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That is Owando PLC. Others are just their marketing arm, like Chevron. You just have Chevron marketing, Mobi marketing. All the multinationals that are involved in this large-scale production in Nigeria are not actually listed on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So until this multinational comes to the market, it's going to help the market. Though with that news, if it was coming from news like that was coming in Owando, and then you would have seen a positive response. But you can't roll it out because it's going to flow and overflow to all those that are listed. But we must know that most of those sectors that are listed are actually the marketing arm of these companies, not actually the production and the exporting arms of these companies.
Muktar, while there's a lot of foreign interest being shown, for these these rights that are being put up for sale, we've got Owando that seems to be amongst the lot as well. I mean, implications for a company like Owando if we're reading into speculation at this stage?
Yes, Owando actually is one company that is doing very, very well in the Nigerian Stock Exchange. But sometimes when you look at it, the company sometime last year came out that they want to segment some of their own. They want to separate the oil from the gas marketing from. So they are going to, divide their company into smaller sectors and list them in different sectors of the Nigerian stock exchange. So when you look at that also, that might be one thing that is affecting the share price of Owando. But if Owando was as it was when it released its results some time ago, then it would have actually moved the market. But now investors are playing cautious with that. When you look at political situation in Nigeria, political situation in the Niger Delta, it's called for caution.
Let's take a look at that political situation, because this week is going to be one of the biggest weeks, and in fact the next 3 months, the most important of its recent political history, beginning elections which could chart its path for further reform in the country. How are you reading the political situation in the country at the moment?
Alishia, Nigeria is one country that the political situation sometimes doesn't have too much bearing on what is happening on most of these companies. But somehow it only help boost investors, mostly foreign investors. At the moment in the trading in this floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, most of those people that make the move and the shakeout of the market last week were not really foreign investors, because some of these foreign investors are still sitting down and looking at the situation as they unfold. As you say, this week is going to be a dicey week for the Nigerian political scene, mostly in the ruling party, the People's Democratic Party. They will be holding their primaries this week. And far much what will happen in the market will determine on what happened with PDP, especially because there seems to be the largest political party in Nigeria. And with every evidence on ground, it's not showing any cause for worry, any cause for anxiety, any cause. Rather, we are beginning to see Nigerian investors being more politically inclined, ready to vote, ready to come out. Most people are preparing to go in for the voters registration. And when you look at that and looking at the atmosphere in Nigeria, then you can say there is a lot of stability that's going to happen in Nigeria this year, and this will definitely help the market.